What is up, guys? As you can tell by my background, I'm sitting in the bikini bottom because in this video I want to get to the bottom of AI automations. In this particular example, we'll build an AI CRM system, so basically be able to manage your Notion or any other CRM that you can be able to chat, ask it to add items, get items, edit them, and so on. So this video is totally beginner friendly. I'll show you exact step by step on how you can build this, and by the end of this video you should be able to understand and build your own systems like this. So without any further ado, let's just get directly to it. So as you can see, I've built a template just for this video. And this template will have Telegram assistant, basically a bot. It'll be able to say, hey, add this to my CRM, find this item, delete this item, and so on. So here is our Notion. I've used the basic template. In this example, this is a task tracker. And here we have a couple of fields. So we'll have a basic field like task name, then we'll have status, we'll have assignee that you can add a person, due date that could be a range of dates, priority, task type, and a description that is simple text. Let's just say we have this basic CRM, and I will go through step by step of these bubbles, how it works, how we can make this from scratch, and I'll make a new flow here. So as you can see, my first step is I'm using Telegram. I have this bot, and to start we can say, hello, what can you do? So here's the response from our bot. I can help you with creating a new item, searching for an item, or editing the status of existing item. Okay, so just to showcase what it's able to do, we can ask it to add an item. Add an item to my CRM for my dental appointment that I'll have in 3 days. So as you can see, it just said, hey, I've added it, here's the link. But if we go back here to our CRM, we can see that it added this new item, which is dental appointment, status not started. So it took the date that is today, it added 3 days. So priority added medium, and task type it shows as feature request. We're limited to a couple of items here. We have bug, feature request, or polish. So for the dental appointment, I guess that's a feature request. So let's add one more. So for example, we can say another item, buying a chocolate bar to my dental clinic. So since we didn't specify a date, it just said today, purchase chocolate bar for patients at the dental clinic. Okay. So now you can see that it's able to add items for us. Now let's ask it to find items. So we now have 2 items that contain the word dental. How about we try to look for it? Do I have any items that have dental? As you can see, it works. So we can look for items. We can say any items about FAQ, any items about FAQ. As you can see, it also found it for us there. So how about we ask it to update a status for us? So we have this dental appointment that is not started. So we can say, I have a dental appointment. Can you change the status to done? So if we come here, we can see that status is updated. And this is just a basic example of what can be done. Of course, we can make it a bit more advanced, but just for the sake of the tutorial or demo, I think this should be enough. So how does it work? Let's get to the interesting part. So we're using make.com, which is a tool where you can create these bubbles. You can pass data from one thing to another, build your own automations. So in that case, we can start from scratch. To start from scratch, you would just click add a module. Let's just try to copy this one. You just click and you choose which type of scenario you want to trigger. So make.com has thousands of them. So most likely it works with your favorite CRMs. So you don't have to use Notion or you don't have to use Telegram either. But what I'm using for this to work is that I'm using OpenAI for AI to generate these things for us in CRM and to better understand user queries. I'm using Telegram as the source of communication, and I'm using Notion itself as the CRM where we store our data. Here we'll just click add a module, Telegram bot. We need to start with triggering a message, right? This is where our scenario gets triggered. So we need to choose watch updates instant. We're saying that once our Telegram bot being triggered, then we run this scenario. So to create a Telegram bot, you would simply go to Telegram, add bot fodder, and click create new bot. It'll give you API credentials. Once you copy this API credentials, you just insert them here. This is where you'll be able to set up your Telegram connection. It's pretty easy. It'll take you less than a minute. Once you have that set up, you can use this as the first bubble. And then to create the second chain, like the second bubble, you just simply click plus, and this is where you can select our bubble. In my example, we're using OpenAI, so we can go OpenAI, choose the bubble, and then choose which action from OpenAI do we want. So since we're calling AI, we can simply use create a completion. But since I don't want to create every single bubble from scratch, we can simply go through the bubbles that are already here. I'll explain how they work as we go. So I'll delete this for now. And as mentioned, here's our first bubble, which is watch Telegram. That'll be triggered once we have any message in our Telegram bot. The important part for this to work, you have to have this thing to be on, which is immediately as data arrives. So you can click run once and it'll test your flow, or you can have this on, that way your bot is always alive. So we can turn it off for now. As mentioned, we have this first Telegram bot that is being triggered by Telegram. We already know that. Here's our second bubble. We have our own API connection here. So similarly to Telegram, where we created our connection through Botfather, we'll also need to have a connection for OpenAI to work, or any other AI provider that you prefer using. But for the sake of experience, OpenAI is pretty popular. ChatGPT, you all know it. So for that, you'll have to go to the playground or the developer platform by OpenAI, go to the settings, API keys, create the API key, and insert it here to create your connection. Keep in mind, you need to have at least $5 on your OpenAI account, or your API credentials will not work since they do not have a free version for API. But once that is set and you have your connection for OpenAI, you select a method, which is create a chat completion, and in the model is where you choose which OpenAI model you want to use. They have plenty of them. You've probably seen this on ChatGPT website as well, where you can select between 3.5, 4.0, 4. Mini is fast, it's small. And here in the messages, you have multiple roles, basically, which is assistant and user are the main ones that you should worry about. And assistant is basically where you provide instruction to the AI on how it should act, how it should talk to users. So here I have my instruction, which is basically your helpful assistant that takes a message from user and turns it into a CRM record in Notion. Today is, and this is where I provide a smart function that gets today's date. That way AI knows which date is today. Otherwise it will not know, or will use some random date that it was trained on. Here's the instruction that we keep on giving it. So you need to generate a JSON, which is the type of data on how it responds. So you can respond to us with text. It can also respond to us with JSON. So you respond to us in JSON, follow template, task name, status, due date, priority, task type, and description. If you analyze, those are the fields that I basically have here. I just mapped them there as the JSON. So basically you can literally name this however you like, but this is how I like to name things. So here we get the fields and I provide what kind of data can go into there. So for example, task name is a string. Status is one of the following: not started, in progress, or done. Due date, here's the format. Priority, low, medium, or high. Again, this is just from Notion. Here, like if we go priorities, you can see the task type is either feature request, bug, or polish. Description is the string, which is basically text. So here is my other instruction. Only reply with the generated JSON. Do not wrap it into things like quote, quote, quote JSON, because sometimes if you talk with OpenAI and you say, give me JSON, it'll reply with this string quotes that we don't need here. And basically I'm saying, so you should message directly start with the JSON array. But only execute the mentioned instruction if you think the user wants to create a new item in the CRM. He can also want to execute other actions like searching for an item in database. So if the message looks like he's searching for an item, still only reply with JSON, but use one field, item name. So that way we don't need all of the other fields for a JSON. Here is an extra instruction block. In any of your responses, you must use automatic field that you create based on the desired action. As mentioned, user can look for an item or also create an item, so use field action type, which values are add an item or search an item or edit item status. So basically here I provide a list of items that can be done through this bot. So later we'll be using this action type field to understand which action to trigger. So if user wants to edit the status of the item, he is calling edit item status here from our list. Use this field. Item name, since we'll still be looking for an item first in order to edit it. If user says edit an item that says dental, we'll have to first find dental and then edit it. Second is item status. For the demo, we have the ability to edit only statuses of items. Item is a single record in our CRM, so we will need a field with the new status. And since it knows what kind of statuses can be there, not started, in progress, or done, it'll able to figure it out which one to use. And the last piece of information here, if it looks like the action that user wants to execute is not one of the above, let's add an error handling. So still reply with the JSON, but use the action type error. And add a field error message where you should list the actions you can do and mention that you can only execute these actions. And here below in our messages, so we start with one message. Basically, when we talk to AI, we say here what you should be able to do. And then the second message that we send to AI is basically here's what our request now based on these instructions. So we have role user, and here is where it gets interesting. In case you never did any passing in Make or any other no-code automation platforms, here's how you can do it. So I'll remove this. So here I can either add things from scratch, like blah, blah, blah. Or you can see that it shows this pop-up that I can use. And basically why this pop-up is interesting is because we can add values that are coming from Telegram in this example. So it might have some data from first step that is passing to the second step. So for example, here we can see the things that we can extract from Telegram. What we care about is the new message that we just received. We need text field. And as you can see, we have some data here that is filled. What you can do is click run once, send the message. It will appear here like the last message that you just sent. We need text. We click save. At this step, we basically call Telegram. We're calling AI that will give us JSON. So let's debug this or see how it works. Example, let's ask it an action that it cannot execute. Hello, sing me a song. And once we've sent a message, we actually have to click run once. And now it says, do you want to use existing data? Basically, we just send it some or wait for new data. Let's do it one more time, wait for new data. And now, as you can see by spinning it, it's waiting for our input. I'll just copy this message again. I hit send. And here we can see the pass by green text where it executed. And we'll get to it a bit later, but let's analyze our outputs here. So as you can see, once we click run once and we send a message, it started adding the bubbles with the amount of data. You can see that we triggered our Telegram, we triggered our AI, we gave it an input. Here's the output. Like this is basically what AI replied to us. That looks like a JSON format. And JSON is usually key value pairs. So basically on the left side, you have a key and its key name, like action type, and value, well in this case error. So remember there was instruction if somebody asked it to do something that is not related to our CRM action, throw an error. So one of the properties inside of JSON, there should be action type error. And here's the error message. I can help you with blah, blah, blah. We call the bubble called parse JSON. The reason we have this is that because this OpenAI, they send us this thing that looks like JSON, but in reality, this is just a text. So this is not an actual JSON. So we need to have this parse JSON where we're passing our result field. Hopefully that is pretty straightforward so far. So we call Telegram, we ask AI to generate our response JSON. We parse this JSON because the format is not correct. So we need it to be actual JSON and not just text that looks like JSON. Then we call this router. It'll be directing or choosing which of those flows to call based on the action type. Here in our router, we just click create a block router, and a router, when you click on it, it creates this new bubbles. So I can create multiple of them. And here in the row, like this arrows or small bubbles that connect those two big bubbles, you can click on them and you can set up a filter, basically when to call this certain flow. Label is just your text description for you not to get lost. So you can see it's previewed here. Add item, and here this is our condition. OpenAI replied to us with JSON. We parse this JSON, and action type is changing. Either that's add an item, remove an item, edit item, and so on. So in that case, we have error. And here we say if action type is add item, only then call the second bubble here. Like only then execute this row. But in this example, it triggered error. So here we have it on our errors. Action type is error. So basically, if this field equals error, which in this example it does, but you can see here by preview, then we call Telegram in order to reply to the same user. Here in the chat, we can have chat ID. So we pass chat ID. So basically to reply back to the same user. Again, from this JSON, we ask AI to add this field, error message, and this is just the text from AI. So when we clicked run once, you saw that it tested basically this flow, and there you have it. This is how we handle errors, and this is the idea of how it works. But now here's the question: how do we connect it to our CRM? As you can see here, we have three paths. One is to add an item, second one is to search item, and the third one is to edit item status. So let's go through each of them. First, we'll have this Notion bubble, which is add an item. When you click router, you can select Notion, and here we have a list of things. They have this section called database items. So database in this example is just this table or Kanban boards or whatever you have on Notion. You can simply click create a database item and you'll have the same exact bubble. So I'll delete this for now. Here they'll ask, what is the database ID? Basically, they're trying to say, what is your Notion page? And you can basically click select from the list. If you don't have this ID, it's no problem. You can click search, and here you just type the name of your page. So in my example, I have task tracker. I'll simply just put tasks, and since it's the only page that have the word task in it, it'll find the database ID for me. Once it finds the page for you, it'll automatically find all of the fields that you have on that page. So task name, status, description, priority, task type, and so on. And here's where you start to pass variables. In this particular example, because we crashed with an error, the AI didn't generate us all of the fields like task name, status, and stuff like this. But when it is not erroring, remember we told it to generate items for us here, like task name, status. Remember in our instruction, we told it to list or add certain items. You can see here, I've added which values should be passed. Task name, status, blah, blah, blah. So later we can use them here in our Notion and fill them here. In order to test this, we can again click run once, see how the value goes. And then in the last step, we'll basically have a response from Telegram, again, chat ID. We added the item. We're passing now response from Notion, which is the item URL and the task name. So let's try to add an item by debugging it first. So I'll click run once. I'll say wait for new data, and let's go back to Telegram and I'll say add an item called buy milk with high priority by tomorrow. So we can see that it's executed here. We triggered Telegram, we received the message, I've added the item, but here's why I love debugging. So the reason we click run once, we send the message, because here in every single following step, it added this number that you can simply click and see what was the execution there. So we can see what was generated from AI when we asked it to generate JSON. So we see we passed the string, it gave us basically exact same things, but just like in the actually formatted JSON. So this matches this. Router, because the action type was add an item, it triggered this. Input is basically what we passed to it, and output is what Notion replied to us. So input filled the things that we passed to it. And for example, where we passed task name, here this helper menu, they actually where we can drag and drop things, we can see those items. Like for example, task name, I can simply just drag and drop. Then on Telegram, basically, you can see the variables are different colors because they are from different bubbles. Like task name, we took it from this bubble when the AI generated us JSON. The URL we took from this darker bubble from Notion because we need the URL of Notion. So these are the items that Notion returned to us. And you can see this would be the URL in this example. So this is how we can add items. This is how we can throw an error to AI. And with that said, let's just go directly to our next example, which is searching for objects. So similarly, as we were to generate items, but when we search for objects, we generate one JSON, which is item name. So again, we look for an item in our database. We say filter task name. Let's say we look through task name. We can also search by description. We can search through another field. We can say search by what contains is like part of it. So I like contains. And item name here we can say limit 10, basically how many records do we want to show at once. So now, since we can have multiple records being shown, like let's say we have the word dental being twice in our database here. If you can see here, dental appointment and then dental clinic. So if I say search for dental, so we can again click run once, debug it together. So I'll do that. Wait for new data. Search for dental, please. So it executed that. If we come back, we can see the execution path. It went through this, then this, and all the way to this bubble. The interesting thing for us here, well, we can check what AI generated. And AI generated this JSON, which is action type search item. That is correct. So we should call the search item bubble item name dental. So AI extracted the word. And here in Notion, we can preview which values were used. So again, item name dental. But here's the output. You can see that make separates if there are multiple actions by bundles. So if we were to collapse this, we can see that it found two items, so basically two bundles. So we just click array aggregator. We just select which of the previous bubbles should be used here. This step is to collect multiple items as one response. And here it's smart enough to understand which fields do we have. So I basically just say, well, from each result, we need page ID, we need to create time, we need less edited time, less edited by, and URL. So those are the values that I need from each of the responses. So if we go back to Telegram, you can see that this is what is used basically is the item name, when it was edited, what is their URL, and when it was created. Then array aggregator will return us collections. We can see by output, it will return one bundle and it'll be like array with multiple collections. So we need to take these collections and put them to the JSON. Or you'll have the thing that says collection. We basically call the bubble called transform to JSON and pass the output, which is basically this bundle here, see, array, to JSON transformation. Once we'll have transformed JSON, we can see the output. So we put those collections and the output is JSON string. It'll be again text, like plain text that looks like JSON. So we call OpenAI bubble. So here is our assistant role. Basic instruction, convert the JSON into human-friendly response. The user was trying to find an item in the CRM and we've got the API calls response, turn it into text. Do not use Markdown. And then we have user, and user we just pass the result of this bubble here. And then when OpenAI gives us some response, so this is the response. So all we gotta do now is just be able to reply back to user. So therefore we add a new bubble, we send a text message or reply to Telegram, chat ID from the previous steps, and we just use this response field. And that way we'll be able to reply to user with something like this. So for the purpose of learning more and getting a bit more practice with this, how about we create a new flow here from scratch together, where for example, instead of editing a status, we'll be editing description of an item. Here we have this field description. So we'll be able to text AI, hey, in this item, change the description to this. So in order to edit the description in the item, we first need to find an item, right? So we'll be finding it, let's say, based on the name. So here we'll create a new bubble. We'll say Notion. We need search objects. In order to simply get item ID, we can just do that. We say search in database items. Database ID is something we can search. It'll automatically find the ID for us here. Here's our filter. We'll be looking for name, task name, title. Here we'll say contains. And here we'll be passing item name. We'll limit it again only to 1. We'll need to actually adjust our AI instructions here. That now we'll have this new ability, not just to update status, but also to update the description. So here's how we can edit this. I'll say if user wants to edit item description, use the action type edit item description and following fields. We'll use item name for search and we'll use item description, right? Or simply description. So here we'll set up our filter, basically edit item description. Condition, when to trigger this, when action type will equal to whatever we just pass it to AI, which is edit item description, save. So this will now be triggered. In order to add the field here, we can simply call run once, wait for new data. We'll go back to Telegram. We'll say edit description for dental description. So here we can see how it's gonna trigger this and we can adjust. So far so good. It was able to find an item for us. That is correct, but nothing happened, right? Because we didn't add the logic behind that. So once it finds the item, we can now click Notion, update database item, select from the list. This is database, so we select again similar way as we did before, and it'll load all the fields that we can use. So database item ID, if we don't click map, it'll actually load items for us, right? But if we click map, this is where we programmatically set up which item to add. And this is why we needed to search for an item first, because from the previous step in the output here, you can see that we'll have item somewhere, like page ID. This is the item ID. We can now simply pass it here. We'll go page ID. We'll say description. We don't want to pass from Notion. We want to get it from AI JSON. Okay, so it looks like everything else we do not want to change. So we'll leave it empty. So we click save. Action should be now editing Notion item for us. So what we want to do in the last step is just simply reply something to our user to give us some indication. So chat, we go all the way back to the first step when we trigger Telegram, message chat ID. Text, so this is what to reply to our user. Something like I've edited, and then we can use Notion name, property values, task name, description. New description is. This is where we can get the value here. Specify the URL for quick access in the end, like this. Let's say now we want to exit our debugging mode and go to the production mode, so we can trigger it without clicking run once. So here's where we switch to on. Immediately as data arrives, we can click delete all data, delete. So it looks like it's running. Oh, also don't forget to hit save for your scenario to be saved. We can go back and test our bot as would do normally. Let's say, which items do I have with dental in my CRM? So it found us 2 items. Now I can say in the item called buying a chocolate, edit description, add some joke to it about dentists. So let's see if it works. Here's the response. I've edited buying a chocolate bar. New description is, why did the dentist become the baseball coach? Because he always knew how to get to the root of the problem. Okay. And here's the URL, or we can simply go back here to our Notion. As you can see, our execution that we just coded works. So we can update description, we can update status, we can create items, we can look for items. And your imagination is the limit here, basically. You can create so many more actions based on this template or framework idea of what I gave you, where you just add this action type field and then later use it in your router and let AI figure out what to use. And you can create more complex flows or just simply new ideas here. You can replace Telegram with another messenger like WhatsApp. You can replace Notion with another CRM, maybe you're using Jira or HubSpot or I don't even know what. Or for example, if you want to have fully different CRM, you simply click create new page in Notion, and here they have like this database. So you click on database and they have a lot of templates. So like goals tracker, task tracker. So task tracker is what we use for this video. They have meeting notes, document hub, projects, brainstorm sessions. You can click more templates and find even more stuff like social media calendar or event management, inventory management, product roadmap. You can also actually build with AI. You can prompt AI to build your CRM with your fields, and later you can connect it with Make. So there we have it. This is how we can simply create an AI managed CRM with Make.com. And as I've mentioned, your imagination is the limit here. I hope you found this video valuable. I'll leave the template link under this video so you can simply copy it. And if you like this video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because here I talk about AI, show more advanced tutorials like this, build startups, and generally share my past in the world of online entrepreneurship. So I hope to see you in the next one.